We're going to use a for loop to make some concentric circles. In approaching this problem, I actually think it's useful to start with a common mistake that we see when people first start to try to solve this problem. And it's actually not that there aren't concentric circles being drawn, it's that we can't see all of them. So often what I see is when people establish their loop, they're going to say for int I equals 0, have that counter variable, that local variable that will count up, start at 0. I is less than 500, so the circles can fill the whole screen. And then I equals I plus, let's say, 10. So here I've got a loop that has a counter, starts at 0, counts up by 10, and then keeps going until I reaches 500. If I use this loop and then say, we'll put those ellipses in the center of the screen and make each one I by I, width and height. So the circle will have the width and the height of the current value of the counter. So first it'll make an ellipse that has diameter of 0. So we won't see that at all. Place it at 250, 250. Then it will count up by 10. The condition is still true. So then it will make an ellipse that's 10 by 10. It'll count up by 10. Now I has a value of 20, the condition's still true, it'll draw one that's 20 by 20, and then 30 by 30, all the way up to 490 by 490. When it adds that last 10, the condition is no longer true because I will have a value of 500, so the loop will end, and if there were anything else in the program, it would go on to that. The problem with this approach is that we just see one big circle with a diameter of 490 because of the order in which these shapes are drawn. It starts drawing the smallest one and then draws increasingly larger circles which cover over the previously drawn circles until that last one at 490, 490. There are two ways to solve this problem. One of them is simply you could use that no-fill function, which removes that filled inness and makes all of the shapes transparent. It just shows their outlines. So if we do that, there they are, all of those circles. Another possible approach, if you don't want to use a no-fill, if you need to have something filled in, is simply to draw the largest circle first and then draw increasingly smaller circles. To do that, I have to change a couple things in this loop. Instead of starting my loop at 0, or instead of starting my counter variable rather at 0, I should start it at something larger. So let's say 500. Now, the condition is no longer correct because if I'm checking and this loop will only run if I is less than 500, but I've given it a starting value of 500, there's no circles will be drawn. So instead, I need to change it to make sure it's going to run until the counter counts down to 0 or to whatever value it is you choose where you'd like the loop to break. And then instead of adding on 10, I'm going to subtract. So now I'm counting backwards. First drawing that first ellipse with a diameter of 500, then subtracting 10. The counter is still greater than 0, so I'll draw one that's 490 in diameter, then subtract 10, 480, and so on and so forth until it'll draw that last circle with a diameter of 10, subtract 10, and once I then will be 0, the loop will end. So it looks pretty much the same, but they are filled in. So you could, in this case, I still have the no-fill here, but if I wanted to, I could change this to demonstrate that you could still have a fill and see those circles.